and I'm chair of the Metropolitan Club Board of Trustees, and it's always a pleasure to welcome so many of you here on a snowy Wednesday. I'd like for you to silence your cell phones if you haven't already done so, but we encourage you to tweet, and tweet responsibly. You can follow CMC at CBus Metro, and our hashtag is CMC Forum. Let me talk about some of the upcoming programs. And by the way, we have been sold out every program this year. It depended on the size of the room, but this is the third one over 250, I think. So if you're interested, make your reservations early. You may get closed out. Next week, join us as we explore the changing foodscape with Ken Lee, director of the OSU Food Innovation Center, and Matt Habash, president and CEO of Mid-Ohio Food Bank. If you're looking for other upcoming events, please download our new app and visit our website at columbusmetroclub.org. Membership, as Jane indicated, we've got over 900 members. I think yesterday's total was 923. We're aiming for 1,000 this year. There are lots of benefits to membership, including discounts on our weekly lunches. There are other tangible benefits as well, but as we could see earlier today, and we'll probably see after lunch, there's a lot of networking that goes on with a lot of very good people. So sign up. I think you'll enjoy membership. In the forum flyer today, you'll find a list of everyone who is attending. So if you're in the guest list, just go to see somebody afterwards and move over to the member list for next time. It's easy and affordable, and again, you can find it on our website. We have a new member, but I understand she's pretty shy, so I'm just going to recognize her, mostly because I figured out how to pronounce her last name. It's Renee Rookline of Phoenix College, and she joins two of her other relatives, and welcome, Renee. Sponsorship. On the back of your program, you find about 80 companies and organizations who sustain CMC and our mission of community conversation through the sponsorships, such as today. The benefits of sponsorship are many, and there's always room for a few more sponsors, so let us know. If you're interested, contact any of the staff members. Today's forum is sponsored by the Jeffrey Company, represented by Tad Jeffrey, who I walked in with, and his associates, and Measurement Resources Company, represented by Sherry Cheney Jones and her associates. We also want to thank our sponsor, WOSU Public Media, represented by Mike Thompson, one of our board members and the chair of our program committee. Please thank them all for their support. There's a full biography in your forum program today, so I'll only make brief introductions. Our first panelist is the Vice President of Research and Policy for the Americans for the Arts, where he's worked since 1991. Please welcome Randy Cohen. Our next panelist has served on several boards of local arts organizations. She is currently a member of Columbus City Council. Please welcome Priscilla Tyson. Next panelist is an art supporter, both personally and professionally, as Regional President of PNC. Please welcome Mike Gonsirowski. Our moderator today is host of All Sides for WOSU Public Media. Please welcome Ann Fisher. On behalf of the Columbus Metropolitan Club, the Jeffrey Company, Measurement Resource Company, OSU Public Media, please welcome all of our panelists, and the microphone is yours, wherever you may be. Are you going first?
I'm up first.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. It's so great to be back here. It's great to be back at the Metropolitan Club. Thank you for hosting this great event. And it's great to be back in Columbus. I just heard from Rich. I've actually been with Americans for the Arts since 1991. My first day on the job at Americans for the Arts was right here in Columbus, if you can believe that. So we're headquartered in Washington, D.C., but in 1991, the Greater Columbus Arts Council hosted our annual convention. We brought in 1,200 arts leaders from across the country to Columbus, and it was a fabulous event. Just to give you an idea how long ago that was, I used my predecessor's airplane ticket, to get here. Can you imagine doing something like that today? So anyway, I got to tell you, it's been so amazing, and I get back here every couple of years to watch and just sort of see in time-lapse photography, if you will, how this community has just evolved and how the arts have just become such a core part of it. I mean, the downtown is so much more amazing now. There's these great neighborhoods. You've got a great music scene, great theater scene, great visual arts organizations. The festival, of course, continues to have worldwide reputation. So Columbus, it's a great arts town. So congratulations on that. And I think it's really helped enliven the downtown. So it's just really exciting to be back. It's just great to be out of Washington, a city where nobody ever feels encumbered by the facts these days. So, so I'm going to talk about the arts today, but a little bit differently than you would typically think about the arts. We love the arts. They inspire us. They delight us. They entertain us. You know, the arts are part of what it means to be human, to be a person. But the fact is, the arts provide not just cultural benefits, but they also provide economic benefits to the community. So a couple weeks ago, I actually went to the theater myself, and you think with Americans for the Arts on my business card, I'm going to the arts all the time, right? You know, I wish I have as much trouble getting out the door as the next guy with kids and work and travel. But it was date night with my wife, and we were going to make an evening at the arts. And so actually turned the clock back 2 weeks because, you got to plan what the big date's going to be. And, she was tipping towards a dance thing. I was leaning towards a theater evening. And, we got online and we started checking different websites, and we laid out all the collateral, all the nice things that we've been mailed. And we settled on a theater event and pulled out the credit card, punched in the numbers, printed out our tickets right there. Gotta love the e-commerce. And so fast forward, it's 2 weeks, it's date night now, and we kind of dressed up a little bit and jumped in the car and drove. And on the way to the theater, we stopped and had dinner, right? Isn't that what we do a lot of times when we go to an arts event? We had dinner first, and we spent about $60. It was a nice restaurant. And then from there, back in the car, and it was off to the theater. And we parked in a municipal garage, so, peeled off another $10 and, got my little ticket. And then we actually got into the theater itself. And, believe it or not, we're still a little bit early. This is how, great, anxious we were to get out of the house early, away from the kids. So we shared a glass of wine. And then on our way into the theater, stopped, hit the facilities, and finally into the auditorium itself. And it's a beautiful old auditorium. It's actually a lot like this room, just taller and wider, beautiful ceiling, beautiful chandeliers. And we sat there and we read our program about the theater event that we were about to see and about the theater. Now, it's only 5 minutes to 8. The curtain hasn't even gone up yet. But think about all the industries that have already been touched as a result of just this one night out at the theater. Well, it started 2 weeks before, right, when we got online. And so you've got web designers and programmers, and, we did some online commerce, and we bought our tickets. So, there's your finance people and your banking folks. And from there, jumped in the car, and we didn't have too far to drive, but with gas pushing $4 a gallon, you don't have to drive very far before that adds up. And we went to the restaurant. We had a nice meal. It's one of those farm-to-fork kind of places, and spent our $60, and it was lovely. And, some of those $60 are going to the waiter, the people in the kitchen. Everything they serve is produced within 50 miles. So, it's kind of their handle. So you got local growers, those folks benefiting from it. The owner of the restaurant bringing some of those $60 home in terms of entrepreneurial income. Back in the car and off to the parking garage. And this area where the theater is actually is probably not unlike some of the neighborhoods around here that have been revitalized by the arts. 10 years ago, that was, 5 o'clock, that area, that part of the neighborhood, it all shut down. And then arts organizations started to move in. The theater went up. Next thing, you've got restaurants and all kinds of other businesses there. Now they're all open till midnight. Restaurants that made it on the lunch trade are now doing dessert and dinner and that type of thing. So there was our $10. That's going to the city. Again, it was a municipal garage. And then into the theater. Well, we had a glass of wine. There's catering and the people doing the production there. Hey, doesn't matter if it's your house or you run a big theater. We all need a good plumber, So, hey, the plumbing was working. We got into the theater itself, the auditorium. And I used to run a theater company. And I'll tell you, you know what? Those aren't interns changing these light bulbs and those big chandeliers. Those are electricians doing the work. So you got electricians involved. And how about the program? Every time you go to an arts event, they're designed, they're printed. If you're a printer, anybody in this room, chances are you're pulling a lot of revenue from local arts organizations. 8 o'clock, the theater, the curtains go up, and that's when a lot of people start to think about, oh yeah, okay, well, those actors are probably getting paid, and there was a director and a set designer, and but the fact is, we're talking about an industry that touches a lot of businesses in a lot of sectors in a community. And that's what we tried to do and capture with this Arts and Economic Prosperity study, which Columbus was part of. It's a big national economic impact study of nonprofit arts organizations and their audiences. Columbus was one of 182 communities that we studied. And you know what we found? The arts industry are a $226 million industry. $226 million of economic activity that takes place every year. In fact, this was 2010, not the best year economically. I mean, the fact is, I think if we were to do this study today, we'd see a lot more economic activity. Let me break that number down a little bit. Arts organizations themselves, and we surveyed a bunch of them and worked with the GCAC on that. Arts organizations spend $131 million every year. Arts organizations are good business citizens. Again, we love the arts. We know they help increase the livability of our communities. But the fact is, these are businesses. They employ people locally in the community. They purchase goods and services locally. They're involved in the promotion and marketing of the city and the region. Now, that spending also leverages this event-related spending by arts audiences. And so how did we get that? Well, you know what we did? We interviewed 1,100 arts attendees to see how much they spent related to that arts event that they were attending. And the typical attendee, $16.23 per person per event beyond the cost of admission. So every time somebody goes to an arts event, whether it's an exhibition, a theater, a free open-air festival, another $16.25 are flowing to local businesses. So lots of good economic benefit. A vibrant arts community is good for local businesses. Now, we asked each of those folks another question. We asked them for their zip code because we wanted to find out, do they live in the county? So, are they Franklin County residents? Are they local? Or are they from outside the county? What we found out is 32% of attendees come from outside the county. And then the big question is, well, do they spend differently? You bet they do, almost $24 per person per event. We asked the folks just one more question on top of that. So, okay, how much did you spend? Where did you come from? And if you were from outside the county, if you were non-local, we asked really quite simply, why are you here? Were you here visiting family? Are you here on business? Or 74% of those attendees said, we came specifically for this arts event. So now you can start to see that arts and culture, is this wonderful thing that improves our community. And when we make an investment in it, we're not investing in a frill. We're investing in a product that draws people to the community, and those people spend money. You add up all that audience spending, it's over $90 million a year, about $95 million a year. So just to kind of wrap up with that, $226 million industry supports over 8,500 jobs right here in the greater Columbus area and generates $25.5 million in government revenue. So arts, food for the soul, improving the quality of our communities, creating the places we want to live in, but also providing economic benefits. So if you're a leader of the community and you care about community and economic impact, you can feel good about investing in the arts. Nationally as well as locally, right here in Columbus, the arts mean business. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. When I moved here about 24 years ago, I couldn't believe it when I heard the stories about the Ohio Theater and how it was literally hours from the wrecking ball before private citizens stepped up to the plate and saved it. And last year, one of the founders of the crowdsourced funding site Kickstarter bragged, and I bet you want to kill him, that in 2012, they raised more money, were expected to raise more money than the National Endowment for the Arts, entire fiscal budget for that year. And some of the critics of that remark and its implications said that the NEA is about access and that Kickstarter is about commerce. And I really heard you talking mostly about commerce just now. What about the access part of this equation, and do enough people really get the access to the arts and what their, deeper purpose is in society?
Well, access is a huge issue. You think about what it takes to produce an opera, what it takes to produce a theater. There's a lot of cost involved in that. And what that public investment and private investment, PNC is a great example, not just here, but in states across the country, actually. So a great corporate leadership example. But that investment helps make the arts more accessible, just simply in terms of cost, because it's not always an inexpensive activity. Folks are drawn to it, but that's the importance of public and private sector investment. Making the arts affordable, accessible, and one way to understand that, because our elected leaders, we got all kinds of questions. All kinds of people are coming to you, Priscilla, and saying, look at what we do and look at these wonderful benefits. And what this study shows, and it has shown in the past, is that when you invest in the arts, you're not investing in some luxury or frill. You're investing in something that's improving our quality of life and generating economic benefits.
Priscilla, when it comes to an entity like Columbus City Council, is the point solely about generating revenue for the city? Is it always just strictly a business-like investment? And if not, how do you make judgments about what's good art or what's worth investing in?
Well, thank you, Ann. One, it is really about the quality of life in our community, because we know that if we have, when we're thinking about individuals who want to move here, who want to stay here, it's about the quality of life. And so based upon that, does that mean it's economic development, it's the economy for us? Sure it is. We want to make sure, just as Randy said, we want to have that $226 million. We want to have 8,500 jobs. But it's also about, the city provides dollars to the arts because we know it's the quality of life. And in doing this, I'll tell you what we also do. We support it through GCAC. And I see a couple of, in terms of the city, a couple of other individuals that serve with me on Columbus City Council. Eileen Paley is here, and she's on the GCAC board. I see Pam O'Grady. So we've made the investment through the people of the city are also involved with the arts by physically being there. But we also focus on it through not only funding, GCAC, but we fund CCLC. We fund those arts organizations that come to us outside of that GCLC and CCLC. We support public art because we know that's very important. We've involved in many, many studies to make sure that we're able to have a prosperous, arts culture within our city. And we also know that not only is it economic development, as we've talked about earlier, but it's some other things too. But most of the arts organizations that we support, they work within our community, and they make sure that arts are accessible to children and to seniors. And we want to make sure that we know that it's also about human development. And we also know that it's about, the cultural development. So is it money? Sure, it's money, but it's all the other things too that the arts bring as to why we support the arts.
Sure.
If I can add, as I sat down for lunch, there was a sheet of paper under my plate that came from the American for the Arts. I think it was the 10 reasons to support the arts. And I'm going to suggest it's never any one thing, but it's all those things that lead us, for example, at PNC to be supportive of the arts. You talk about access. We try with our programming, Arts Alive in particular, to fund those programs where audience development is going to be one of the key drivers for the programs that are going to be produced by the arts organizations. And so again, it's never any one thing. It's this combination of things. Mm-hmm. And to Randy's point, I mean, PNC figured this out a long time ago, that this is commercially viable and commercially successful to be a supporter of the arts. So that's one of the reasons we do it.
How do you decide what fits into the matrix of what you consider the arts, and when it's coming from PNC? I guess I kind of wonder, when you think about what you're investing in, why are the arts more valuable per se to you as a business person and as a business entity than, say, investing in the schools?
Well, I would suggest we wouldn't make the argument that they're more important. And I would also remind people that our largest philanthropic thrust for PNC is our Grow Up Great program, which is early childhood education. So that's birth through K programming. Now, we actually do that in collaboration with many arts groups, but our primary focus is not the arts, but early childhood education. And frankly, our largest single local philanthropic gift goes to the United Way, our corporate contribution to United Way. So arts is just another one of those things that we invest in.
Yeah, I'd add that there's a lot of research to back that up. When you investing in the arts and arts education, you're actually making an investment in improved education. Young people who have an education rich in the arts are performing better academically, better standardized test scores, better grade point averages, lower dropout rates, and those are findings that are cut across all socioeconomic strata. And you've got great arts education leadership here in the town with GCAC and the Ohio Alliance for Arts Education. So lots of that work happening right here in the community. Sure, that's appropriate. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Because that's what we want. We want healthier communities, and part of that is good education. And so we got to keep the arts as part of education because it's just clear the research is showing that's yielding better academic performance.
I think when we, as a city, when we're investing in the arts, we know that each of those arts organizations are working in the schools and making sure that arts is accessible to them. They're going to senior citizens facilities. They're working with our hospitals. We know that they're doing outreach in the community that is greater than people coming to their facilities and seeing their productions or seeing their artwork.
I want to see if you have a question or comment. Give us a call and give my the phone number to the. I can't help it. It's just this spontaneous feeling in my mind. And thank you. You must be regular listeners if you're laughing.
Yeah.
How do you, when you're talking about you talked about all these value added or these you're going to buy a ticket and maybe the ticket's $15 but you're going to spend $60 and so forth. That's who are those people that are out doing that right now, and did that hold steady during the economic downturn?
Well, we did, I guess we could have done the study in 2009 if we really wanted a bad economic year, So 2010 was sort of the beginning of the bounce back. But, really what that showed, 2010, 5.9 million attendees to arts events in a down economy. Everybody's spending, something, an average of $16.23. But the fact is that you were still pulling a third of the audience from outside the county, and that 3/4 of those folks said, we came for the art. Says to me, you've really got a product here That's a very strategic economic development product. And that's, we look at a whole range of arts events. We don't just do all the surveys at the festival, which, has got huge international attendance. It's a whole representative range as well. So it's a very conservative approach.
Some of the best press for the arts has been the negative press or the controversial press. It gets people talking about things, and there's like great examples in Ohio that we know about. I guess I first heard about Ohio when I heard about Mapplethorpe down in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But what are you ever concerned, Priscilla and Mike, about the fact that if you're involved, maybe people are doing something different as artists, that somehow the experience and the how it unfolds in our community is different when government or a big bank that's going to give a lot of money is involved?
So is the question, is it possible that we could be embarrassed by our support for the arts? The answer would be yes, we worry about that.
Right. Well, you could also be very proud, so it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Priscilla?
Embarrassed about being,
Well, no, I mean, do you ever wonder about the impact of getting government instead of having people, the starving artist thing? And the Short North was not started by corporations. It didn't start that way. It started with individuals investing their, blood, sweat, and tears into it.
well, I just think that in terms of city government, I just believe that we have an obligation to be supportive of the arts, and to be able to help support artist communities like we're getting ready to do in the Franklinton area and helping art to grow. I think that we have an obligation. We have a large university that's here that certainly trains a large university at the Ohio State. We have CCAD. We have a lot of young people who are involved in the arts, getting their education in the arts. And so I guess I'm really never embarrassed by the dollars that we give to support the arts, because I think that it is so important for the for our community, for the quality of life in our community. And so and I trust the organizations that we are giving those dollars to. But I also think that if there's art, for an example, like the art that's outside, I love public art, and
You got to get rid of that sign.
so
Priscilla.
and public art, and certainly
What time is it in Tehran?
the Public
Right.
Art Commission is here. But art is supposed to be provocative. It's supposed to.
I'm provoked.
And he is provoked, and so. And I've shared with Michael that is temporary art, and so that he doesn't believe that, but it is. But still, that's the point. The key to that is that the art is there, and it made individuals ask questions. What is this? And based upon that, it brings up the conversation about public art, and that's what it's supposed to do. So, no, I'm not. I mean, I think we have to allow for artists to have creativity, and we want to be, as we say in Columbus, we want to be an open community, and so based upon that, the arts play a role in that.
Randy, what about you at the national level?
Yeah, that's what we're clapping about. Very nicely said. Thank you, Priscilla. Well, it's interesting. One of the reasons I see businesses heavily support the arts, and again, as Michael said, it's good for the community, it's good for the company. The workers in the new economy operating very differently than workers in past economies. Young workers these days, they're picking the communities that they want to live in and moving there and figuring they'll find work. They want to work where they live. As opposed to me, honestly, I lived where I worked, went where the job was. And this is a domestic phenomenon, a global phenomenon. Again and again, creative, culturally vibrant communities are what these folks are looking for. And so as we try to attract and retain this skilled, educated workforce, that is a big piece. That's why this can be also a strategic investment for a community. And, if that's where the workers are, that's where the businesses go. Because really, these days, what do you need? An electrical outlet and a satellite dish, you're good to go. You can go to Iowa, you can go to Ireland. You're going to go where you can find the best workforce. And so that is one of the big issues with business leaders. I work with the conference board quite a bit. That's the organization for the Fortune 1,000 companies in this country. They give you the leading index of economic indicators. Their research shows that creativity has soared to the top 5 applied skills that businesses are looking for. It's even leapfrogged the 3 R's. Well, I think when we talk about it, of course you got to be able to read, write, and do math. But you know what? If that's it, that's a $15 an hour job, and it's headed for India. But if you can add some creativity and innovation to that, well, that's a $115 an hour job, and that's staying right here. Can you create, optimize an existing product or create a new market? 10 years ago, who knew we needed an iPad? I bet half the room's got one, right? So that's where the importance of creativity comes in this workforce. When you ask business leaders what the biggest indicators of creativity are, study of the arts, especially while in college, or starting your own company, your own business. So, we're really seeing that kind of, again, self and community interest, and so it's great for a community.
Are any of you worried about the trajectory that we're on now in terms of education, where there is a lot of pressure on kids in high school especially to go into one of the STEM fields and not feed their soul per se? I mean, you're not in theater anymore necessarily. In fact, you and I were talking, you were in medical research for years. Yeah. That's apparently where the jobs are. Mike, are you concerned about that because you're hiring accountants and banker type people?
No, I wouldn't say I'm worried about that. I think people are realizing just what Randy pointed out, that you can't just have an engineer smart in math without also capable of being creative and being visual, because he'll be a better engineer if he's got all those skills together. And I think in this community, as we're really in the midst of great controversy relative to our public education system, and there are a lot of people talking about education reform, the creative piece, the use of technology in concert with STEM education is all going to be part and parcel to the solution. So I'm not worried. I think we'll figure it out.
Priscilla, what about at the local level? We're talking a lot about schools in Columbus and what to do and how to help them fix themselves. And how much do you think the arts are going to come into play in this discussion?
I think the arts will come into play in this discussion, and I think that as we talk about STEM, we should add an A and call it STEAM, so that we add arts into this equation. And so I know that we will certainly be talking about the arts during those discussions.
And that's STEM to STEAM is really picked up some traction. In fact, there's a new Congressional Arts Caucus. It's a STEM to STEAM caucus, basically, and it actually has its first meeting and briefing tomorrow, in fact, in Washington, D.C. So I think there is greater awareness that, like Mike said, look, we need people that can do engineering, but we need creative engineers, because innovation is the key to prospering, in the global economy now.
And I would add, the arts organizations in this town have also figured this out, because when they come to us with an early childhood educational program that includes whether it's dance or music or activities at the museum, they're building this into what we're talking about. So I think this community gets it.
We do. I just want to commend, I know, PNC, because they certainly have made sure that their work within the PNC Arts Alive, they certainly have worked with arts institutions, bringing different diverse groups together to be able to then to showcase arts for young people, to give young people the opportunity to be able to see the arts, as well as to bring different audiences together to understand the arts. And that means that connection is so important. So this community does get the importance of arts education, the arts for adults, the creative economy in our community. We want to have that creative economy, and the city is certainly involved in trying to make sure that we have, you live and work with live and workspace for the arts, because we understand that our businesses need creative people working for them to continue to be successful.
Well, my script went away, so I'm not quite sure when I'm supposed to break to the questions, but I'd be glad to do it now if there are any questions from the audience. We have a microphone, I think one. Again, my script.
Yes,
So,
yes, okay.
go
Mark Barbash, I have a shameless plug and a shameless question. My shameless plug is that Catco's production of Red, which is being done in partnership with the Columbus Museum of Art, opens tonight. I had to do that because the Catco table is here, and they'd kick me out if I didn't do that. My shameless question is for Randy, and then if Councilmember Tyson and Mike, you want to comment. What community, Randy, or communities do you look at as models for finding ways to support, to provide sustained support for the arts, public-private partnerships that cover both performance and education and human services to the neighborhoods? That's a different way of asking, what do you think about Columbus? But I like to look at other communities. So what communities do you look at and say, Columbus ought to think about those ideas? Don't copy them, because we are Columbus, and there's great variety in Columbus. I mean, Friday nights, we have lots to pick from, but what communities do you think we ought to be looking closest at to kind of address this in the next 20 years?
Sure. Well, let me answer that two ways, on kind of a, supply side, if you will. Some communities have found very innovative ways to keep the arts funding happening. Now, in Columbus, a portion of the hotel occupancy tax here is used to support the arts. We see that in communities across the country. But, if you look at the metropolitan area of Denver, they've actually voted 3 times now to increase the sales tax on themselves by 0.1%. That funds arts and culture in the zoo $40 million a year. It's only a couple bucks per person per month, but been very effective. Just up the road in Cleveland area, there's a tax on smoking. It's used to support the arts. There's a property tax in St. Louis that is directing dedicated funding to the arts. Charlotte, I think, uses a portion. There's augmented. There's a fee on car rentals. Which funds the arts. So it's some different ways. Communities are trying to find different ways to fund the arts with revenue. And in Seattle, actually, the hoteliers there got together. 56 hotels all agreed that, let's just voluntarily tax ourselves $2 a room night. We'll throw all that money in a kitty, and we'll use it to market the arts. Basically recognizing the fact that arts and culture is a product that's drawing people to the community, and that's bumping up our hotel occupancy rates. So, we're seeing it in a lot of ways. Now, those are big, expensive things, and those, and they're sustainable. They're well supported by their community. Again, they're voted and approved. They all have sunsets. They come back again. But while you're working on that, not everything has to be a $3 million idea. This is my 53rd city since June, so I've been living out of a suitcase quite a bit lately, talking about economic impact of the arts and with these other communities. And there's some other ways communities are branding themselves and infusing arts and creativity into their community. So I was in Seattle, where they've got what's called the Music on Hold program at the city. So you call the city, hi, City of Seattle, please hold. And while you're on hold, you're listening to Seattle musicians, only Seattle musicians, play music. And they change it every quarter. There's a website that you can buy your local fellow musicians. Great music town right here in Columbus. There's something. The city already spent millions on the phone system. This is just a little program. In fact, it's so popular, the mayor now does the voiceovers for it. Hi, this is Mayor Mike McGinn. You're listening to Seattle Music on Hold, so folks love it. I was up in a small community upstate New York recently where I learned about it. One of the big new public safety issues facing our elected leaders, people are stealing manhole covers and selling it for scrap metal. Now, if I'm a city council person, I can't think of a bigger nightmare than one of my constituencies. Whoop,
I fell through a manhole in Mexico City one time.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, well.
Just saying.
It probably wasn't pretty. That sounds horrifying to me. Well, let me tell you what they're
kind
doing.
Of a funny story.
With the arts on that. Well, they're sending the manholes to be reforged back to the foundry, right? Well, they've got artists designing the tops of those manhole covers. So they're cool looking. They've got designs. They're colorful. you know, you're sending it anyway, an extra $1,000, you've got interesting, unique work. In Boise, you know, they've got traffic signal boxes, right, in every intersection. You know, there's sort of that garish green. Well, they've got artists doing original art, which is then used to wrap the traffic signal boxes. There's about 24 of them. The big thing now is get your picture next to all 24 traffic signal boxes. So, you know, the point is there's lots of these examples that if you're the community that's boasting about its manhole covers, its you know, on hold, you know, phone system, you know, the traffic signal boxes, well, that's a real creative, innovative community that the arts are really part of. Every municipality has got advisory boards, commissions, committees. Is there an arts presence on that? Because a lot of times it's just about making good decisions, better decisions.
Before we go on, I do have my script now. So CMC records all of its forums for broadcast on YouTube. So, and it streams on CMC's website and the Columbus Metropolitan Library website as well. So while at the microphone, please introduce yourself, and we thank you in advance for not making long editorial comments. And let's take our second question.
Just in time. I'm just fascinated by the new trivia question in town. What famous personality has fallen through a manhole? Thank you all for being here. We tend to think of arts, at least in this room and probably most of us, in more of the traditional sense, you know, the performing arts and fine art and so forth. Can you talk a little bit about the growing industry and the growing economic impact of industrial arts and package design and maybe fabric design and things like that that kind of fall in the STEAM education maybe, but aren't necessarily things that we talk about in a traditional conversation about the arts?
Jane, can I make a comment on that? We had a meeting yesterday that was hosted at CCAD, and you know, everyone's heard of CCAD, the largest single arts higher education institution in the state of Ohio, and they do everything that you just mentioned and have just recently started coordinating that with a business program as well. So they're trying to drive their artists, if you will, to also pick up some of the business skills that they need to kind of make that mix happen. And we spent the meeting itself was held in the Design Center, which is the building right on Broad and Cleveland Street there. And there's just a lot of great work going on by that institution here, you know, literally blocks away. So I know that that's happening.
Hello, my name is John McKnight. I work for Rife's Auto Body. So not directly artists, but you know, we paint cars. So
Steamy.
there's some art there, yeah. And I wanted to mention something about Ann Fisher, her contribution to the arts. I saw you playing your flute at a community performance in Clintonville last weekend.
There's another funny story,
it was very interesting listening to that. Very
Thank you
good.
very
Thank
much.
you. Very talented. It seems to me that you talk about you need the creative mind in a lot of different you know, professions out there, and that art helps stimulate that, you know, that creative mind. Aside from that, it seems to me that art introduced at a very young age in the schools stimulates the mind of the student and is going to result in the student being more engaged in school and smarter in a lot of other areas, or you know, gain more smartness in the other areas. Is there much solid data to support that? And if so, do the school systems recognize that data and, you know, embrace that in trying to promote the arts at a young age, not just having an art class, but, you know, really getting them engaged in arts? Because I think, like I say, it results in so much more than just an artist or a creative mind. It really stimulates the mind and will make them smarter at math and English and everything else that they need to learn.
The answer is yes.
Yes, we know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, there are.
There's lots of studies around that, and I think that that's why it's so important that when I mentioned all the different arts organizations that are here, how they are working not only when after-school programs or in-school programs to be able to let these young people begin to show their, you know, use their creative side. And so we know it, and we're hopeful that as we continue to move forward with the changes in our school system, that the arts will play a significant role.
Are you witnessing Columbus schools really embracing that, or arts being cut as they need to tighten their money,
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
there's been some changes, but we know that's a focus and want to move forward.
I think you're bringing up an interesting point about siloing. You know, so many of the organizations in the city just seem to be separated a lot. And there's a pretty cool organization, the Dick and Jane Project. I don't know if anybody in here is familiar with it, but what amazed me about that is that they went to Columbus City Schools and they agreed to work with them on it. And they were letting these people in, and what they do is they go in and they have kids write lyrics or poems, and then they put them to music. It's a super cool thing, and it seems like a simple thing to do, but lots of times there's a lot of siloing going on. Is that something that you see across the country? You mentioned just having the music on the, in fact, by the way, they should make a CD of that music too.
Yeah, well, they do. Yeah, they do sell the music by the musicians in Seattle. Well, it's a mix. It's different everywhere you go. But the fact is, there's something about the arts that's very engaging for young people of all ages, really, and it keeps school interesting and fun. So it's a strategy, to teach other areas of the curriculum. So it happens in a lot of different ways. But, the research is abundantly clear, if you're sort of looking for a real, nugget. If you look at students taking the SAT tests, high school students with 4 years of arts or music average about 100 points better on their SATs than students with just a half year or less. And you find these, these findings can cut across all grade levels, across all socioeconomic strata. The school districts are up against a lot of challenge in terms of time, high stakes testing, so it takes the full community. We need everybody in this room. Next time there's a school hearing, and we're going to get together with GCAC and the Alliance to get down there and say, here's why it's important. I put some data on that little top 10 reason why, and I'll send y'all plenty more. But it's the community getting together and saying, you know what, we get it, and this is important. And I think that's what's got to happen, because the answer to your question is yes, but we need something to push it over the edge. And you all can do it.
Hi, I'm Jim Sweeney. I'm the director of the Franklinton Development Association. Happy to say many of my board members are over here, and we're thrilled to be part of the conversation about arts in Columbus, especially as a revitalization tool. We decided years ago that we would pursue a sort of soft policy of beginning to change perception of our community from the bottoms back to Franklinton and make it a very relevant and important part of our downtown community again through embracing arts and doing everything we could do from our nonprofit seat. We mostly do affordable housing development, but we've been able to scrape together enough resources and friends and energy to pull this off and actually make it seem like Franklinton could be the next arts community. And I'm very happy to hear it mentioned today from the dais that it may be. I wonder if you would take a moment and discuss your perspective on the role of arts as a revitalization tool.
I think the arts play a significant role on the revitalization tool, and certainly, as we just mentioned, Jim, that in Franklinton, the Short North, the Near East Side, that we've certainly used art to be able to bring to move communities forward. And so we see that as a way that it's a good investment in our community to be able to begin to move those communities forward in a stronger way. And it's worked. It's worked in the Short North. You see it's worked on the Near East Side. And with the Franklinton Development Corporation that's here, and with, as you know, we are just having a new department of the city called Next Generation, which is really focused on the revitalization of these communities that certainly have not had a lot of development in the past. That we have a nonprofit organization that's coming out of the city that will be focused in that area. So we know that the arts play a tremendous role, and the city is showing its commitment by having a new nonprofit that we are supporting to make sure that we continue to move our communities forward.
Hi, my name is Dina Seco. I work for the Ohio Environmental Council. As the name suggests, we are a statewide environmental advocacy organization. That being said, we were so bold as to decide to dabble in the arts a bit last year as well. We planned last year our first ever Art for the Environment event. So it was specifically trying to reach an arts crowd, and I actually see a lot of familiar faces here, so we did a decent job of bringing that crowd in. My question is likely specifically for Randy, which is, as we debate whether to host this event again, invite local, well-known local artists to contribute a piece, we gave 50% to the artists and 50% to our organization, have you done research around whether donors who generally support the arts also support environmental causes? What other causes do they tend to support?
I'm unsure exactly what those numbers look like, to be honest. You know, there's arts donors cover such a wide span. It's a nonpartisan issue. So I think you probably see the whole spectrum, to be honest. Sure.
Hello, my name is Cynthia King. My question is primarily directed to Ms. Tyson and Mr. Gonsirowski. I've lived in Columbus a long time, and frankly, when I first moved here, it was a really boring city. It has gotten so much better. And one of the things that I see all the time, and I appreciated Mr. Cohen's comment, the world has changed, and the good jobs don't really require your warm body to be there very much anymore. I have a niece who is a web designer who works for a company in Albuquerque. She lives in southern France, but she works for a company in Albuquerque. My daughter worked for Ohio State University from Australia.
Can I do that?
Well, usually you get the job first and then you move. But I mean, I don't want to go on, but I mean, I'm rolling off the top of my head all the people I know who work hundreds of miles from where they are, an engineering librarian. I have a team of people that work for me. Most of them I never see. My question has to do with this. In Columbus, we're always trying to push Columbus as a bigger city, a tougher city, gosh, we're going to be just like a little New York and stuff. Well, we're not. And we are a nice place to raise a family of people who want their children to be exposed to art and interesting music and culture and wonderful things at actually a fairly low cost. And how do you, as leaders of how this city is marketed and promoted, move it to saying, hey, maybe we're like a little Seattle, not a little New York, not a little Chicago. We're a place of, a nice place to raise an intelligent family.
Well, I would hope our support for the arts is part of delivering that message. I would hope our support for Columbus 2020 and the economic development that's going on and the job attraction that organization is working on is part of that answer. I would hope our recognition of the work that got done in branding this a smart and open city and telling people about this being a smart and open city helps drive that message. So I think it's part of how we do business in this town. And this isn't unique to PNC. I think this is unique to most of the large corporates in this town, realizing everything I've just said and sharing that message with our colleagues across the other parts of the country that we do business with, and certainly with the people we're doing business with here. Priscilla?
Thank you, Michael. I don't know if we're trying to be a little New York. I think that we're happy that we're Columbus, Ohio, and we are focused on and we really, through the studies that we've done from Columbus 2020, Columbus Studies, the Columbus Foundation, there's been a lot of studies in our community, and we know what our assets are. And we really want to let people know about the great assets that we have in our community, as well as continue to retain those assets, grow those assets, and let people know who we are, so that we have the #1 library, or we have the #1 COSI, and we have one of the the largest universities here. We have CCAD. We want to. I mean, we're, like I said, we're smart and we're open, and we're going to share what our assets are. And based upon that, I think that, and obviously it's working. We're the only city truly growing in the state of Ohio. And not to say we just compare ourselves to the state of Ohio, but that's important. We know what our unemployment rate happens to be, which is quite low. So we want to focus on what we do well and continue to move forward in that direction and to improve our community, to retain the people that we have, to continue to grow our jobs. I think we grew, 4,500, 5,000 jobs last year. So we want to just be who we are and be the best at who we are. We want to stay in our lane and show people that our lane is a great lane, and that's who we are. And I'm happy to be in Columbus.
Thanks. Okay.
I'll be quick. Peter Yockel, Short North Stage at the Garden Theater up in the Short North. Thank you for being here today. It's an important conversation you're all having. It occurs to me as someone who grew up in Ohio, and one of the things that I love about Columbus is that we are the most vital city in a state that still has a lot of vital cultural assets. Up in Cleveland, we have a world-class orchestra. We have great museums in Toledo and Dayton and Cincinnati and Cleveland. And my question is, what is Columbus doing to leverage the larger assets of the state of Ohio to create this cultural, artistic community? That's an interest to me, and I think it's something that is a real asset that we have here in Columbus, that we're so close to and have such a history with other cultural entities in this very culturally diverse and state that has deep cultural roots.
Peter, I don't have a good answer for you. I'd suggest there are a number of art leaders sitting at the tables here that you should maybe ask that question to. I don't have a good answer. Priscilla?
No, I really don't. I think that we do try to work with the arts organizations that are in the Central Ohio area to be able to help promote what they're doing. But in terms of us working more closely with the arts organizations throughout the state of Ohio, I can't say that we do. We do work with the Ohio Arts Council, but other than that, there's not a lot of work that we've done with them.
Yeah, I don't know specifically, but I'll say this. Columbus has got nationally significant, top-tier arts organizations that have been recognized by the National Endowment for the Arts. Of course, your state arts agency, funds here. There's definitely lots of outside investment, and recognition, I should say, and, we could always use more of that money. But there's a lot here that has got significance that goes well beyond the Ohio borders. So a lot to be proud of.
Thank you. I think one of the things we try so hard to do in Columbus is to retain all the smart people that we have being educated here. And I think, just involved in recruiting sometimes myself, the quality of life is so critical to getting people to stay and to come and to stay. And I think all of you today have demonstrated how important it is and what we're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed the forum. You can see it again on YouTube, and you can find that on our website. Coffee and cookies out in the library afterwards if you want to continue to talk to these folks. Next week, the other art in town, Changing Foodscape. Once more, let's thank our sponsors for today, the Jeffrey Company, Measurement Resources, WOSU Media, and our speakers, Randy Cohen, Priscilla Tyson, Mike Gonsirowski, and our moderator, Ann Fisher. Thank you all. Enjoy your afternoon.